In Algebra 1, Section 6.5, we're dealing with multiplying polynomials. Now, when we're multiplying polynomials, we need to distribute, multiply, and then combine like terms. So, when you're dealing with multiplying polynomials, sometimes the term foiling comes up, and I know you might be experienced with foiling. I'm not a big fan of it because it's a shortcut and it kind of has limitations. So this section, I'm going to teach you just the basics of how to do it, and then you can apply that to every single situation. So in this case, I just need to distribute all of the like terms to the next one and multiply. So that means I need to multiply 3 and 9. 3 times 9. I need to multiply m times m2, m squared, and then n squared and n times n. Okay? So in this case, this 3 times 9 is simple, 27. Now what I do here is I'm going to, when I'm multiplying, with the same term, what I do with the exponents is I add them. So I'm multiplying the terms, and they have to be the same. Like I can't multiply m with n, but I can multiply m with m. And this m has a 1 because there's no number, so it's to the power of 1. So that means I just do m times 1 plus 2. And then this is n times 2 plus 1, n to the power of 2 plus 1. So this gives me 27, m to the third, n to the third. Okay? So, let's apply to this one. Okay? Now, just because this is not in parentheses, it means I do the same thing. If you need to add parentheses to help, that's fine too, but I do the same thing. I'm going to take it, and this time I'm going to give it to each of these. Okay? So that means I'm going to take this, because this second one has no plus or minus that's separating it. But this time we have a plus or minus. So now these are two terms. So anytime something is separated with plus and minus, I need to make sure to distribute to both of those terms. So 1/2 doesn't just go to 6, but it also goes to 8. So then I have 1/2, okay, times 6. Okay, and then I do plus 1/2 times 8. The next one, I'm going to take x squared, and I'm going to apply it to this x. So I do x squared times x, and then x squared times x squared. So in parentheses is what I'm multiplying it by. And finally, y times y, so y times y, and then y times y squared. Now when you're doing the work, you don't actually have to do this process. You can just multiply it out to kind of save work. I'm just doing it so that you can see how I'm getting my answers. Okay? So from here, I end up with 1/2 times 6, which is 3, and then x squared times x, and this is 1, right? So I do the same thing, I'm going to add. So this becomes x squared plus x squared times x1 is x to the third, because I'm adding. And then these y's both have 1, so I end up with y squared, plus 8 times 1/2 is 4. And then x squared times x squared, I have to add the 2, so it gives me x to the fourth. And this is y 1 times y squared, which gives me y to the third. Here's the thing. If these were exactly the same, x cubed y squared, and this was x cubed y squared, then I can combine the coefficients, because then they'll be like terms. But because these are different, these are not like terms, so this is as far as my equation will be simplified. Right? Number 3 is a little tricky, because what you want to do is take the 2 and distribute it, which is a common mistake that you make. When you have a parentheses squared and there's a plus or minus in between them, you have more than one term. Because of that, now if it was just like 4x squared, then I can take this 2 and I can distribute to the 4, distribute to the x, and done. But because there's this minus, what I have to do now is I have to put it as two identical parentheses multiplied by each other. And I have to do the same thing that I'm doing here. I'm going to take this first one, x, and I'm going to multiply it by the entire thing. So it's going to look like x times x minus 4. Okay? Same thing with this. Now I'm going to take the sign in front of it, because if this had a negative in front of it, I would have put a negative, but this is positive. This is a negative 4, and I have to multiply it by the whole thing. Negative 4x minus 4. Okay? So again, when I multiply, I have to take it and I have to put in terms. Now in this case, in this one I had one term that I'm giving to both. This one I have two terms, an x and a negative 4. So I need to take an x and multiply it to this term, and then a negative 4 and multiply it to this term. And once I have that, it's just a bigger version of this, or just a multi-step version of that. So I'm going to take x here, and I'm going to multiply to each term. X times x is x squared, and x times negative 4, don't forget it's negative, is negative 4x. Then I do negative 4 times x, which gives me negative 4x, and then negative 4 times negative 4, right? That gives me a positive 16. Now, with this, okay, I look. Is there any x squared? No, so I can't combine that with anything. But negative 4x, both of these have x, so they're like terms, so now I can combine. Negative 4 minus 4. Now, please remember, it's not 0. That would be negative 4 plus 4. But this is negative 4x minus 4, which gives me a negative 8. So I end up with a negative 8x, and then plus 16. Okay? And this is my answer because I can't simplify it anymore. Now, this does look daunting, it does look big, but it's the same concept. I'm going to take each term and multiply it by this entire polynomial here. Okay? So I'm going to take each of these monomials and I'm going to multiply it by the entire polynomial. It's the same thing as this, except this one will have more steps because this has more terms in this polynomial. So I'm going to do 2x times everything and then I'm going to do negative 5 times everything. Please don't forget to include that negative. Whew. It's supposed to be plus 3. Okay? So I'm going to take this negative 2 and do it to the first one. So negative 2x. So I'm going to do what I did here. Okay? I'm going to take the negative. I'm going to multiply only my like terms. When I'm multiplying, it doesn't have to be like term. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can multiply an x and an x squared. So, but I can't add an x and an x squared together, but I can multiply. So negative 2, I do negative 2 times negative 4, which gives me positive 8. And then x to the 1 times x to the 2. Well, x to the 1 times x to the 2, what do I do with the exponents? I add them. So this becomes x to the 3rd. And then I'm going to do it to this whole thing. Don't forget that negative. So negative 2 times negative 10 gives me a positive 20. And then positive 20 would be plus 20. And then the x1 times x gives me x to the 2. And I'm going to multiply this whole thing. So negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Okay? But because there's no x, I'm just going to carry it. Right? Because 3 doesn't have an x, so I'm going to carry it down. I'm going to do the same thing here. Negative 5 times this term, so negative 5 times negative 4, which gives me positive 20. And then because there's no x, I'm going to bring over the x squared. Because I can't multiply, 5 has no x, so I don't have to multiply it. So then negative 5 times negative 10x gives me negative 5 times negative 10 is positive 50. And because there's no 5, negative 5 again doesn't have an x, I bring that x, and then negative 5 times positive 3 is negative 15, right? So that, again, then we just made it long also. But now, from here, we just have to see if we can combine like terms. If we can't combine a like term, then we just carry it down. For example, this is x to the third. Is there any other x to the thirds here? No. So then I carry it down. You see how I'm putting a line under it? That shows me that I've taken care of it. Because if I don't put a line, I can get confused on what I've used and what I haven't used. So I suggest that some people cross it out. I like to underline it. Just mark it once you've taken care of it. So this is an x squared right here. Is there any other x squared? Well, there's another x squared. So 20 plus 20 is a 40x squared. Is there any other x squareds? No. So we have plus 40x squared. And then we have a negative 6x plus 50x, but no other x's. So then we end up with negative 6x plus 50 is positive 44x. And because negative 15, because there's no other numbers with, that's just a constant, we're going to bring negative 15 down. And that's as much as we can do, and that's our answer. All right? So, there's a lot of work, don't worry, we'll go over it in class if you get confused, but go ahead and try page 427, numbers 4 and 23. 427, numbers 4 and 23, and I will see you in class.